All right, guys, what's the vibes? How you guys doing? All right, today we are here and let's look at what we have. So I finally got stopped out on this trade, right? I didn't take a loss on this. I moved to break even just right before NFP this morning out actually London session, right? But I was able to secure 1.5%, right? And that was good, right? Again, I was expecting that I would see all of this, but we do not determine, how price is going to play, right? Price is going to do what it's going to do, right? So, and that's why I got protected on this particular move, right? I showed yesterday why I would be considering, another run above these highs, even though I said, that's not what I wanted to see. Like, I didn't like to see that, or I wouldn't have loved to see that. I'd have loved to see, price just return all the way lower. That would have been very good for my accounts. But again, it is what it is, right? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And this one, I think it just stays right in the middle. My only trade for the week. And I was only able to end the week with about 1% because I then finally entered this trade, which I'll talk about in a little while, for a 0.5%. But let's look at this, right? Price return again for NFP taking out buy side liquidity. Why did we see buy side today on gold? Why did we see sell side on DXY? Right? That's one of the things I want us to cover today, right? And we would find that information when we go over to yield, right? We'll find that information when we go over to the yield market, right? Let's see, right? I think I'm here. Um, I was checking Maven and their rules for one of my students. I wanted to see what it's like, what offers they have. And it turns out that their one-step challenge actually has a trailing drawdown, which is crazy. Right? The evaluation stage has a trailing drawdown. And trailing drawdown is one of my least favorite rules. Like, why? It's just crazy. You can't, you know, return back to break even, because then you get stopped out, especially when you start to grow the account. It's just a rule I don't like. But let's leave that. Let's look at what happened today. Thursday, we had NFP come in clutch, right? And what happened for NFP? We saw that we actually had worse than expected job numbers coming, right? We had 57,000 jobs coming, while the expected numbers was 104,000. Now, we know that when we have NFP, we are talking about how many jobs are being added to the US month over month, right? And what the market expects, right, is always in forecast here, right? And what we want to see for a stronger dollar or a bullish dollar is higher than expected numbers, which we have had all year. All year we've had higher than expected. I think one of the months, I think maybe one of the months we had lower than expected numbers. But aside that, all of the other months we've had a stronger job market, which indicates a stronger economy for the US dollar, right? But today we had worse than expected numbers, which is why you see DXY on the news release just crash lower because of this, right? Because we had worse numbers coming in, and that's how to read the news. Now, for average hourly earnings, because you don't just look at NFP, you look at the earnings also. We had we have the numbers coming as expected, 0.3, 0.3%, and unemployment rate also came in unemployment rate came in worse than expected also, right? So the rate of unemployment has dropped to 4.2%, right? And we were expecting, 4.3%, or the markets were expecting 4.3%, right? So if we had, higher numbers for unemployment rate, then we would see. So these numbers are coming in bad for the dollar. That's really kind of like straight to the point what's happening here, right? And that affected the market in a negative way, right? I mean, the dollar going lower, right? And every time we have, bad numbers, I would say, right? Or numbers that we've just seen like that on DXY, where, economic growth, inflation bias. I talked about these things, in one of my calls on Monday, or on Monday's call, Monday Outlook, right? If you want that video, I can send it to you, where I really break down, how to read the economic calendar, right? But the things to think about is when we have a struggling DXY, we are going to see higher or a stronger bullish gold market, right? And that's what we've seen, right? And for gold, like I said before, right, there are certain levels I'm still considering, right? I took a 0.5% risk here because I still want to have another idea if this doesn't work out, right? So if this doesn't work in my favor, I'll take a small loss and then I'll come inside of here and then take another trade. And that will be the kind of like the final one, maybe until we return back all the way here, right? But this is what I'm looking at. Now, I'm going to be cross-checking more numbers as we go into next week and really hold my thoughts while thinking about the trade, especially on gold next week, right? Seeing what the numbers that kind of like back up what we had today are showing. So what is CPI showing? CPI is going to be coming out next week. What are we seeing for CPI? Are we seeing higher inflation or are we seeing inflation get beat? If inflation numbers are coming in lower than expected, then it means that the bearish dollar is really something to really put notice to. But for right now, I just think, all of this is just, still a manipulation in my view. Why? Because if you look at the weekly time frame on the dollar, right, everything here is still bullish. We still have that monthly fair value gap inside of here. Price is just returning back into a discount level, fair value gap, and this old high in here is a mitigation block. So what I still see inside of here is we still have technically the dollar in buy side program, right? And you don't just want to focus on NFP coming in bad as the only reason why you want to be selling dollar, right? The way you think about price is, oh, okay, this is happening, then this is happening, then this is happening. You are stacking up confluences to actually make a decision. You don't just take one and say, oh, this is the reason why, I want to be seeing a particular bias. You need to have more reasons. So technically for me, this is still bullish, and that's why I'm in those gold sales. Right. Another thing is if we look at the yield market, right, and we look at the 2-year yield, we would see that we are still forming higher highs and higher lows, right? We haven't still broken, these levels, right? This is still an uptrend market, right? And until this starts to fail, that's when I'll start to consider, gold for buy side. And you might say, oh, well, it would have gone all the way. You probably be getting in late. Well, it depends on what you think late is, right? If this thing is going to crash to the floor, then there's returning back to 5,500 on gold, right? And I'm going to catch it somewhere, right? I'm going to get into it somewhere. One of the things I do like to do is call the tops and bottoms of any markets because no one can actually do it properly. No one actually knows when it is, right? So I would rather wait for confirmations to then put me in and say, oh, okay, this is why you are doing this. This is why you need to do that. So again, that's my view. That's what I want to see. The week has ended today because we have July 4th public holiday happening tomorrow, right? Let's look at GU. We saw GU also expand. I was looking at this level. And, just before NFP, we had a close through that level, a return back into it and led into buy side. But as you can see, the buy side or the spike was short-lived. We didn't see any continuation from that move. So on Monday, I will be looking at continuations from this, going back into sell side. That's gone to my head what I'm going to do, right? You might want to tell me something else that I'm not looking at inside of here, and maybe I consider it, right? Look at that, right? We have EU also back into this bearish order block after taking out this equal highs. Good again. Everything in here still speaks to sell side. So I'm not trying to just start to sell or trying to change my bias because DXY had a bearish day, right? So again, it's not the best of weeks. 1%, to end the week, but it's not a bad week also, right? I'm grateful for that. I was only able to trade yesterday, Wednesday, and then today I took a trade, but the trade is still in the works, right? I will see what happens next week. What did you do this week? How did you engage? Were you able to, get some money in, right? And what was it like for you? Let me know in the comment section, right? And just to say this out there, somebody asked me if the mentorship program is still out there, right? The inner circle, and we got slots open from July 1st, right? And it's going to wrap up around July 10th. So if you are on the edge and you are still in the circle of losses and you don't know what systems work, then the inner circle is for you, right? Some of the things you need to know is the inner circle accommodates traders that that have been in the game for a while, not newbies, right? So it's a space where traders scale, right? So you are working towards getting a funded account, you are working on a live account, you want to see growth on, right? And that is when, you know, the inner circle is for you. It's not for everyone. If you're just starting out, I'm sorry, the inner circle is not for you, right? But if you have been in the game for a length of time and you are not finding consistency easy, then I would advise that you come inside of the inner circle. We have proven results of over 70 to 80% of the individuals in the inner circle funded, right? 5 of them got funded in the last 2 months, and it's just amazing to see that the systems that we put in place actually do the work. But they won't work for you if you don't commit, right? I don't like to take away the part of you as the individual would need to actually put in work to actually see results from, you know, whatever program you sign up to be. It doesn't need to be mine, but whatever program you sign up to be, whatever learning you are doing, you need to actually fulfill the plan or the systems put in place to actually see results. All right, guys, right? If that person is you, reach out to me, right, through any of the channels that you have seen in the description, or just, you know, say it in the comments and I'll reach out to you privately. All right, guys, I would see you in the next one. Bless up.